China builds a potential war island for Taiwan as Beijing's new South China Sea outpost rapidly takes shape. Beijing appears to be preparing for a future move on Taiwan as she builds a massive new base in the South China Sea. China may be preparing the battlefield for Taiwan as a 1,500-acre outpost rises at an astonishing pace. Beijing builds for a possible Taiwan war as a runway, deep water port, and radar hub take shape. China builds a giant sea fortress as Taiwan watches the rapid militarization of the new outpost with alarm. As Trump gives Beijing a potential opening over Taiwan, are Xi's forces quietly preparing for an invasion scenario? China has transformed Antelope Reef into a 1,500-acre artificial island in just 10 months, rapidly expanding its footprint in the disputed South China Sea. New satellite imagery showed a deep water port and major runway construction, highlighting the scale of China's rapid reclamation project, according to the war zone. The first phase of the rapid land reclamation project is now complete, marking a major expansion of China's presence at the reef, Reuters reported. The island was built after Chinese dredgers moved more than 1 million tons of seabed sand to create new land around the previously submerged reef. The 3.7-mile-long outpost now features extensive seawalls, roads, and multiple active construction zones across the newly created artificial island. Vantor imagery showed a possible 10,000-foot runway and space for large aircraft hangars, potentially allowing the site to support major air operations. A 2,200-foot quay could allow military and civilian ships to dock inside the lagoon, giving China a potential new logistics hub in the region. Antelope Reef is part of the disputed Paracel Islands, which China has controlled since 1974 despite competing territorial claims in the region. An expanded base could boost China's radar coverage, air power, and surveillance reach across the South China Sea, strengthening its regional military presence. Experts said the site's biggest benefit could be its intelligence and surveillance capabilities, allowing China to monitor a wider area of the disputed waters. USS George Washington entered the Middle East, preserving U.S. carrier power against Iran as Washington maintained a major naval presence in the region. CENTCOM said the carrier arrived on August 19, replacing USS Abraham Lincoln after the carrier completed an extended deployment in the Middle East. Lincoln ended a 9-month deployment that involved intense combat operations, maritime missions, and sustained support for U.S. forces in the region. The carrier flew more than 10,000 sorties during its deployment and used about 1.5 million pounds of ordnance in combat operations. Lincoln's prolonged deployment also exposed growing crew fatigue and logistical strains as disrupted supply routes complicated sustained operations. USS George Washington now maintains U.S. strike and air defense capabilities across the Arabian Sea, keeping carrier-based power close to Iran. However, experts warned that moving the Washington from Yokosuka reduces the visible concentration of U.S. carrier power near China and Taiwan. The rotation highlighted Washington's wider force dilemma as the U.S. military manages simultaneous strategic pressure from Iran and China. For now, the U.S. retains submarines, bombers, and land-based aircraft across the Indo-Pacific despite the carrier's temporary shift toward the Middle East. However, the handover sustains military pressure on Iran, while also highlighting the growing strain on U.S. naval forces across multiple theaters. China's reusable rocket breakthrough could now reshape the military race in space, giving Beijing a way to launch satellite constellations faster and at lower cost. On August 19, Landspace recovered the first stage of its Zhu Q3 rocket on land, after the vehicle successfully launched a satellite into orbit. This marked China's first land recovery of an orbital-class rocket booster after launch, using a controlled vertical landing supported by deployable landing legs. China has now recovered orbital rocket boosters using 2 different methods, demonstrating both land-based vertical landings and ship-based sea recovery operations. Zhu Q3 landed vertically using landing legs, allowing Landspace to recover the booster on a designated landing site in Gansu province. Long March 10B was caught by a net at sea, using a specialized recovery ship to capture the returning booster above the water. China is the first nation to achieve both orbital booster recovery methods, combining a vertical land touchdown with an ocean-based net capture system. The United States has not demonstrated both recovery pathways, despite SpaceX pioneering routine booster landings on land and drone ships. America still leads in total booster recoveries, with SpaceX operating the world's most mature, reliable, and frequently reused rocket launch system. Interestingly, Zhu Q3's landing legs and stabilizing fins resemble those used by SpaceX's Falcon 9, highlighting how closely China's new booster mirrors the US design approach. Zhu Q3 and Falcon 9 are broadly similar in overall size, with both designed as large two-stage launch vehicles capable of deploying payloads into low Earth orbit. Zhu Q3's stabilizing fins resemble features found on the US rocket, helping guide the returning booster during atmospheric descent and recovery operations. Falcon 9 has a significantly higher stated payload capacity to low Earth orbit, lifting up to 22.8 metric tons compared with Zhu Q3's reported 14.2-ton capacity. Zhu Q3 uses stainless steel as its primary structural material, differing from the aluminium alloy construction widely associated with Falcon 9's rocket body. Landspace says stainless steel could make production cheaper, potentially lowering raw material and manufacturing costs as it seeks to scale up reusable launch operations. Methane oxygen propulsion reduces soot and coking during operations, helping engines remain cleaner during the repeated use needed for a reusable booster system. Cleaner propulsion could make repeated rocket reuse easier, reducing maintenance requirements and improving the turnaround time between launches. China's reusable rocket breakthrough could have much bigger military consequences, because cheap and frequent launches can transform the pace of satellite deployment. Reusable boosters could lower costs and let Beijing put satellites into orbit much faster, allowing China to replace losses and expand constellations at scale. That could speed up deployment of large distributed military satellite constellations, strengthening China's intelligence, surveillance, communications, and targeting capabilities in space. US Space Force officials warned that China built the expanding network to track mobile American forces, including warships and aircraft operating across the Pacific.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.